Oh no, now the knee. Well, that was it. Manu, what's he done there? He's sold the dummy with a knee injury. It's a fake knee injury. That is set up a try from Momirovski.
It's the next tackle. He gets an offload. He goes back and gets the football. Probably feels a cramp coming on in the back of his calf. And then just takes off.
Oh, what a beauty. So, you pick which has been the better moment. The bloke kicking the ball back from the traffic at the southern end, or Manu, the cramp, the fibber, and takes off to set up a try.
Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of the SuperCoach Tragics podcast. I'm your host, Dan, coach of Badonkadonk. Tonight we have three people with me tonight. So I start with you, Glenn. Mate, how was your weekend?
Yeah, good weekend, mate. Got to sit back and watch heaps of footy, some good games. I really enjoyed the weekend, mate.
Yeah, I had a few beers on Saturday, so I think I might have forgotten the last few games, but I did enjoy watching it no matter what. So awesome. And we didn't get enough of him last week, so he's back again. Perso, mate, thanks for coming back.
Chatting, lads, how good was it having 4 games of footy on a Sunday from sort of lunchtime through to about 8 o'clock at night? Oh, it was fantastic.
Being hungover, bloody just sitting down all day watching the footy was bloody beautiful. So
the wife could watch maths in peace.
Love it. And last but not least, from Off the Bench podcast, Brad Smith, mate. I'm the guy that has a beard that I'm jealous of. So I had to have you on.
Hey, fellas, how are we all going? Thank you. I actually cut about 8 inches off it this week. I must be the only bloke in Australia that can lose 8 inches and still be happy.
Lose 8 inches, I'd be inverted. I mean, sorry, we're talking about beards still. Okay, awesome. Alrighty, guys. Let's talk trials. First game of the week, Knights versus the Eels, guys. I'll go to you, Glenn. What did you take from this game, mate?
Yeah, it was good. Thought the Eels looked a little bit clunky. The Knights, as Perso was saying earlier the forwards were a little bit howdy-doody, but there was a few players of interest in there. I mean, Miller, obviously. Marzu, obviously, I thought he had a really good game. Marzu's another one. And Ponga, we saw that he didn't get the goal kicking. It went to Hastings. So that sort of puts, for me, rules a line through Ponga. And, and Safidi just didn't really impress me that much. From the Eels, Brown picked up where he left off. Base king.
Yeah, looking good. Any thoughts, Perso?
Eels look really good, considering. I wasn't going to take. I don't take a lot out of trials, but they were fairly clinical, considering they had a lot less ball. The Knights had way more possession. Sean Lane doing his getting a busted jaw there might be interesting for SuperCoach. So it opens up a door for someone, particularly with Matto out. But the Eels are impressive. Knights not so impressive. I'm really worried about where the Knights are going.
Yeah. What do we think about young Dury? You reckon he's shoo-in for that spot?
You think Dory be on one side and then Murchie played on the left when Lane went off. So you'd expect both of those guys to be known. Obviously, Hopgood at lock. It just depends on what happens with Madison now when he comes back after he's decided to take that fine instead of the suspension instead of paying that fine. So, but Madison was dynamic off the bench playing through the middle last year, but Hopgood's really impressed. So I wonder if Madison goes back to the edge, especially being so thin. That's sort of what I'd expect to happen. But one of those two out of Dory and Murchie will probably be a bit trappish. Yeah. But the other one will probably be fairly solid.
Totally agree.
I thought Moses was good, by the way, Dan. Sorry, I left one out.
He was great.
I thought Moses stood up, and it excites me whoever's that right second rower outside him. I actually had Lane. He was my pod, as you know, and shattered about his loss, but it opens up a door for someone else.
Yeah, Brad, thoughts on this game, mate? Anyone else strike your fancy?
One you haven't mentioned is really stood out, and he's from the losing team, and that was Marzu. I wish I had the cash for him, but if you have worked him into your team, I reckon he's not going to let you down. He's a bit of a beast monster, and I know he's got an error or two in him, but SuperCoach favours his sort of stats, if you know what I mean. Like an error or two can be sort of half forgiven in SuperCoach, whereas those tackle busts and try assists and things like that, SuperCoach loves them.
I think thing for Marzu this year too, Brad, is he hasn't really got anyone knocking down. Like, he sort of comes in and out of sides, so he's got defensive lapses. The Knights don't really have, like, who's he going to get replaced by? Tawala or Heimel Hunt? They're sort of in the same boat. So I think Marzu's a good shout, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you said before, if he makes it, he drops one ball, it's like 1 point missing, and then he has one hit up, he does a 2 tackle bust and gets 2 points from the 8 meter hit up. That's already made those points up and then some. So yeah, I've always liked Marzu as a base point kind of centre wing. He's kind of a pod with a reasonable ceiling and a very, very high floor. So I don't think you really go wrong with him. But yeah, it's just like, where can you get the cash really? If you're going to start with Holmes, do you fork out the rest of the money to get someone else as well? All right, we'll move on to the next game. Roosters and Manly. Manly, bit of brilliance there from the second rowers, Glenn.
Oh, yeah, so Tuolagi and Koala. Koala, sorry. I can't say his name.
Olakawatu.
I kept going to Kololatangi. Yeah, I thought both of them were really strong. I think Tuolagi points per dollar makes sense to me, as Perso was saying as well earlier on, that, they should both play each side. I just saw a post before we came on that Schuster's been injured. If that does happen, it opens up the door for Cooper Johns, who I really rate. I've been saying a lot. I feel like Schuster should move to lock and move Cooper Johns into 5'8", but it'll give him the opportunity anyway for the first game.
Yeah, I think that lock position, I know it's usually been bigger bodies and stuff, but it's more those lean kind of bodies that are doing a much better job. Like, you got the Cam Murray's, who's a very lean ball player as well. Isaiah Yeo, he's a big boy, but he's still also pretty lean. I reckon Schuster fits that mold. So, any other thoughts in this game, Perso?
I just liked how good Manly's sort of second string spine looked in that game. Keon Weeks, Cooper Johns, Chan Kum Kong as well at hooker. I thought he's been dynamic in both the games, so it'd be interesting to see how they go when you sort of get the main side back. But they've looked really good with those guys sort of steering the ship.
Yeah,
I think as well, like, you got to think, well, who's their starting hooker? Is like Lachlan Croker, yeah? Like, is he? Was he
Not
always?
Sure what's going on with him at the moment, but yeah, he's starting. I don't know if he's been injured or not, but I don't think Ken Chung Tong is in the top 30. He's a development player this year, top 30 next year for 2024. So obviously, I think Croker will. I'm not sure what's going on with him. Why he hasn't played trials? He might have a niggle. They've just been resting him, but he'd be trying to find a way to get him in the top 30. I think it's been quite impressive.
Yeah, definitely like it. Brad, any other thoughts in this game, mate?
Oh, look, it's sensational to see the Eagles win. And most people know I'm a bit of an Eagles nut. So, it was a very, very strong game. I love the Sea Eagles edges, just like everybody. But there's a bit of depth there too. There's some other, Burbo's come back looking like he's put on about 10 kilos. Ben Condon from North Queensland also looking quite strong on the bench. There's a lot to be said. I do like the winger. Again, I can't fit him in, but Tupanua. Is that how I pronounce his name?
Tupolotu.
Yeah,
Tupolotu.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a beast nut too, isn't he? He does a lot of runs coming back, and Lachlan Croker, he was originally a 5'8", so he's a manufactured dummy half. So it wouldn't surprise me if Kum Wong can probably force his way in there, and even as a development player, you can still play some minutes this year.
From round 11 onwards, they can come in.
So it wouldn't surprise me if Lachlan Croker went back to his bench sort of role, which is what he's originally got for. He was never intended to be a full-time hooker. It was only Fainu who went and stabbed someone.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
Well, it's not alleged anymore. He's in prison, so we can say that now.
He's in.
There's other players there of interest that I would like to mention quickly, Dan. So Kepi played at the lock position at 279. If he gets that starting position, he also got Jewel today, so he's one that's at least of interest. Point of interest. I thought Koala was incredible. Koala, however you say his name, played out.
He's a gun.
Outside Olakawatu. I just think those two outside DCE could be some interest there if you're looking for some upside. And just from the Roosters, I thought Lodge and Collins were phenomenal.
Yeah, I've always liked Lodge at a super coach level. It's just always been whether he gets those minutes and whether he can hold his head together as well without doing something stupid and getting sent off.
He's still on a train and trial contract at the moment.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, he's not in the
Yeah.
top 30, but they've still got 2 spaces left, the Roosters. So you'd assume they're just trying to sort out the salary cap with that. But
Mm. Mm. All right, next game, Dragons against the Rabbitohs Charity Shield, Glenn. This is normally one of the better trial matches with more accuracy when it comes to the team list. Your thoughts on this one, mate?
I thought the Rabbits looked slick.
Mm.
They really did. I mean, they're a good, fast football side. They play fast, they play aggressive, and they go from left to right really quickly. And I thought they showed that the other night. There was a few players that stood out to me. I thought Latz was lazy as usual, but I was really keen. I thought Tass looked really good. I'm a real big fan of Tass, by the way. Thompson didn't impress me, actually. But the
Mm.
ones that did impress me was Cook. Cook was just on fire. And Totola in the front row, and of course Koloa Matangi. I mean, he just looks big and beastly. From the Dragons, well, I've earmarked BMM, so Ben Modak Masilla, although I don't really like him, to be honest. I don't think he'll get the minutes. And Sloan, I thought Sloan had some moments, like Hayes Perrin. Both of them have moments, and I think that once they get enough first grade experience, those two should slowly ease in and be quite should do well.
Yeah, I don't mind Sloan. Is it a bit lower price point compared to those other ones as well that you're looking at, like Perham and that? I think he's a 298, so it's a bit cheaper. So Perso?
yeah, the South, they just came out of the blocks, didn't they? They looked dynamic. Yeah, to reiterate what Glenn said, although Cook was outstanding. Latrell did his usual thing, John doing need to. Cody Walker was really good. Tatala's in for a massive year, I think. I think he's going to be a really good player. Whether that equates to super coach or not, I think it possibly can with extra minutes, especially with Ham Sally and Havili out and Nichols moving on. I think there's some extra minutes there for someone. Moali was pretty impressive too. He ended up playing 40 minutes and got through a bit of work. So he's a cheapy sort of option there. For the Dragons, yeah, nothing. Sloan was awful. He was horrendous until sort of late in the second half when South had their second grade side out there, and he scored a couple of points, but geez, he was bad. He had a couple of bad errors, and he was horrible in defence. That try when Cook went and put Mitchell over from the scrum base, I reckon I could have scored that try. They were so far out of position.
Yeah, it was pretty messy.
It's and the thing with Sloan, he's got all the ability in the world and that, but Hook dropped him after 2 weeks last year. Who's to say that he doesn't put in buy in round 2? Dragons got the buy round 1. For all we know, Moses and Buy could be named at fullback come round 1. There's no way in the world I could pick Sloan.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's it. Brad, your thoughts on this game, mate? Anything we haven't already said?
Well, no, not really. Sloan burnt me bad last year because I was one of the nutters that decided to go in from round 1 and absolutely burnt the shit out of me. So I'll never go back there ever again. I did all this research pre-season, and it dead set looked like he could have a good Supercoach game, but obviously doesn't. So I won't go there. Sullivan, I didn't mind him.
Yeah.
At 5'8" there. So it was. He's certainly one on my watch list just out of interest to keep an eye on. Sullivan. Yeah.
Especially if they do what Perso said and look at maybe dropping Slow and having a poor game and put Mbai back there, and then you got Sullivan as well, like just to get more exposure like that as well.
Yeah.
Alrighty. We'll just skip the next game, will we? Panthers versus the Saints. That was terrible. Terrible.
I wanted to quickly talk about it. I know you don't.
What I will say is I will admit this. I underestimated the loss of Kickout. I think we need to have that big body on that left edge, and he did a really good job getting out of trouble. I always thought Corey. It was obviously we missed Corus out there, but I think that big body on the left hand side is extremely important. So I would prefer to have someone like Sorensen there. But that's just me personally. I'm not a coach, so Glenn, your thoughts on this game, mate?
Yeah, well, sorry, I don't agree with you on that. So I was talking to my son today, and I said to myself, if I was the Panthers and I had an option to buy one or two players, David Fafita to replace where Kikau was, or Cook to replace where Apai Coruscant was, I would pick Cook. And I think if Cook was to join that side, he would walk straight in and take you to a premiership.
Mm.
Apai is a huge loss. Every decision starts with number 9, and Mitch Kenny's not your man. Mitch Kenny's great for defending for the first 20 minutes. Look, Sonny Luke offers you promise, and he's quick out of the ruck, but I don't think he has the decision-making nous that Apai did. A couple of things of interest, though, was so Taylor May's gone down for the season, which could move Toho to the left side. If he goes to the left side, I'm all over Targo as well. I think both of them together could be quite interesting. If Saruva gets that left spot at 264, I think he is, we'd be jumping on there. Garner told me enough to drop him out of my side. And the only other one I wanted to mention was Hoskins. I'm a big fan of Hoskins. If he was to get an 80-minute roll on the edge, I'd be all over that.
Yeah. So?
Are we possibly underestimating how bad the weather was in that game?
Yeah.
It was absolutely horrendous. Like, it was dead set pissing down.
Ironically, English weather.
Oh, worse. It doesn't rain like that in England. It drizzles over there. It does not piss down like that. There was a point where they were almost going to call it off at one point because the storm would roll through. It was atrocious conditions. St Helens were good, but defensively they were great. Their launch speed was great, and it sort of rattled Penrith a little bit. Panthers haven't really had a go. I don't know. I don't take a lot out of that for how Penrith's going to go this year, to be honest. Garner was ordinary, but he's always been sort of ordinary, so that doesn't surprise me as a Tiger supporter. It's not sort of too much there, but I don't know. I don't take a lot out of that game for how Penrith will go this year. I don't take a lot out of that for Supercoach, to be honest. Except for, as you touched on, May's done his ACL, so that obviously opens up a permanent spot, which will likely go to Ruba. Jesse McLean was quite impressive in the other trial for the Panthers. He's in the top 30 squad, so he could possibly be a smoky for that spot. But if Toa goes to the left, I'm still not. Toa's so overrated as far as Supercoach goes for me. He had that one outstanding season in the season where everyone had an outstanding season in 2021 when he was on the left side and he had that 84 average, and then he came back to 59 this year. He had a 59 average the year before when he was on the right when Mansour was the left edge. It was just an absolute outlier 2021. So he's got a great base. He's never going to let you down, but I don't think his upside's that great as to what people are thinking. No, he's underpriced. I think he's priced exactly where he's at. So I don't know. People expecting him to go back to 70s or 80s or something. I think they're going to get shocked whether he plays left or right.
Yeah. Well, one other thing I took out of that game as well is Cleary. I think they worked out to have 54 points in a pretty average game. That just proves to me that he's still a guy that you have to have in your team. 54 100%. Points in that kind of game, that's ridiculous.
People saying, get rid of him. He's no good. Look, he's 56 with doing nothing in the game. Yeah. That just cements him, if anything.
Yeah, how many games do you see him do nothing? Very few. And then if he's doing nothing and getting 54 points, and that's the worst you're going to get out of him, get him into your team as soon as you can. Brad, any other thoughts on this game, mate?
No, not really. I think you've just about covered it all. Garner coming into the game last year, he had a PPM of 0.6. Now, I know he played a bit of centre and got shuffled around and that. Look, his PPM the year before that wasn't even much better. I had a good look at it, so that's enough for me to even before this game to tell me that he's a big risk. And he consequently became the most sold player, I think, over the weekend. I think it was a massive sell-off. But, nothing more to add.
Yeah. All right. And another classic derby here, Cowboys versus the Bronx. How'd you think of this one, Glenn?
Yeah, geez. Some of the Broncos look slick. I mean, I really like Cobbo. I mean, Cobbo's just in beast mode, isn't he? And I mean, at fullback, geez, I don't know what's wrong with that coach, but he'd be my fullback, if I had Cobbo. There was a few interesting ones there. Haas was interesting. I like Walters. I think I like the whole right-hand side too of Ricky, Staggs and Cobbo. I just really like that edge. Farnsworth from the Cowboys, Hess was an interesting one. Drinkwater and Holmes. Holmes looked a bit, I don't know, they didn't look to have the fluency that they end with, but I mean, that's pretty much rugby league every year. Coming back, you don't have to, quite the fluency you end with.
Yeah, true. Perso, mate, anything that you like this game?
That was a pretty good game for a trial.
Oh yeah.
It was definitely entertaining. I think we saw enough from both sides that I think the Broncos are sort of going to improve a little bit from where they fell away at the end of last year. As far as the sort of guns go with the Cowboys, I saw enough out of your Drink Waters and your Holmeses and that to think that they're going to be pretty relevant again this year for Supercoach.
I thought Payne Haas actually was pretty impressive as well.
Yeah, him and he's looked like he's free of his injuries from last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
So that was the biggest thing with him. Like he started a house on fire last year, then he had both shoulders was gone, and he had niggles all through the season. So you expect him to bounce back to some degree. And Carrigan was quite strong as well, which you'd expect.
Yeah. Awesome. And Brad, anyone that we missed, mate?
No, not really. Yeah, no, Tommy Dearden doesn't look too bad. I still, he's a massive, if you want an Uber pod for the 5'8", particularly if Schuster, and we start having to play around with that 5'8" position, which a lot of people seem to ignore, and now Burton's sort of fallen out of favour. He wouldn't be the worst, but I've got Payne Haas in my team. I love both his trials. He looks good, so I agree with you. I'll pay up the 680 just for the consistency and knowing I'm going to get the points every week. So yeah, he's in for me.
And if you didn't have that season last year, and like the bit of a fallout from the year before as well, if you could get Payne Haas for 680, you'd probably take it. You know what I mean? Knowing what his pedigree is, but he's just had a bit of a rough trot, and I think if he's back to the way he was, that's a bargain.
Yeah, he's unders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he averaged 75 over that first sort of 6 to 8 rounds last year before he did that first shoulder. So,
and I think there was AC joints too. Those things are not fun to manage. They're horrible to manage. Yeah. I'll try and mix up a little bit now. So I'll go to the next one, Warriors and Storm. I'll go to you, Brad, first, so you have a bit more to talk about.
No, that's all right. I actually didn't catch a whole. I've certainly seen all the highlights of this one, so I really don't have a lot to add. Somebody who actually saw the game might have a bit more on this one. I've certainly got a lot of interest in Barney now. He's got the duel. And from what I saw, his minutes were a bit limited there, but he looked okay. Certainly looked, putting him up in the front row to partner Haas wouldn't go. I now have to choose between him and the Dolphins front row. We're both at about the same price. So, and Barney hasn't let me down in the past, so he is certainly one to be watching there. Yeah.
So, this game, mate?
Barnett looked outstanding, just from what Brad said. He played the first 33 minutes straight at prop. Came back on. I was watching this closely, this game. Came back on early in the second half. I think he's in for big minutes, and then towards the end he sort of split. He was hanging foul on the edge for a little bit too before he went off. But him getting dual today, I think that's massive. He's a big option at front row forward, I think.
Yeah, I think his PPM will go through the roof playing in the middle there. He's always pretty good at getting that like much higher PPM in the middle. But if he's
Jackson Ford looked really good on the edge too. In that game, I was watching that the first half. He played the whole lot. Niokora played the whole lot, both on both edges. And then you don't know how much to take in the minutes when it comes. But they both had a spell in the second half, and Bailey came on for Niokora. Niokora played a bit through the middle as well. And Ford, Curran came on the other side forward. So it was interesting that Curran was on the bench and then started in the middle and he slipped out to the edge. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with Ford. If he gets 60-odd minutes on that edge, playing the way he looks pretty good.
Yeah, considering that $298 as well, he's quite cheap.
Yeah, very cheap.
Glenn, any other thoughts on this game, mate?
Yeah, I got a lot of them, mate. So going to the second rowers first. So Niokora defended on the right edge. When Curran came on, he went to the right edge and Niokora moved into the lock position. And he made a hell of a tackle. I don't know if you saw it, but he made one hell of a mad tackle as soon as he came into that lock. The K and Viliami were ugly. I thought, I didn't like what I saw from them at all. But I really like Ford. I really like Barnett and Niokora from the Warriors. But on the other side of the thing, so Warbrick, I mean, how good was he? He was
outstanding.
I thought he was incredible. And the other one that stood out to me was Nass. And I've actually slipped Nass into my front row. He's one of my
7
front row.
offloads.
Yeah, I just thought he was really, really good, Nass. And Katoa. What about Elise Katoa? I mean, I was not touching Elise Katoa, but one of the things that I watch for in a club is set plays. And there were 2 set plays set up by the Storm for Katoa. And both times he nearly scored off both. And although he didn't get the result, it's what I saw.
He did score off one.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. He did too. Sorry. That's right. He did. Out on the right edge.
That was a great line he ran.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, straight off Munster. So.
Yeah, Katoa really stood out to me. I mean, Josh King picked up where he left off, and Hughes just looks faster for some reason. I thought Hughes had a really good game as well. Remus Smith, I didn't like what I saw from him, or Nick Meaney, but Warbrick was exciting.
He's a big body on that wing. He's a big boy. So
rumours are he's not going to get the spot though, Dan.
Yeah.
They're saying it's going to be possibly Anderson or
Youngton.
Yeah, Tonopia, is it?
Yeah.
Or Laramia. But I mean that would be a waste.
Tonopia is not in the top 30 squad.
Yeah, so it's Laramia, isn't it?
Laramia's injured, isn't he?
Surely Laramia was in that game. Surely Warbrick's played his way into that spot. Surely.
You have to think so. He was incredible.
You're choosing between Green Anderson and Aramia. Surely Warbrick's done enough. But
That's it. All right. I'll start with Perth for the next one. So Tigers 36, Raiders 4. Bit nicer to see the team play.
Grand final tickets purchased. It was good to see the Tigers. Like the first 10 minutes of that game, I was thinking, here we go again. Had a couple of errors and didn't look too good, but they clicked into the gear, played pretty well. Raiders are fairly ordinary. They took most of their guys off sort of just before half time, and none came back in the second half. It was encouraging sides from the Tigers. Adam Dewey did exactly what I expected. He's the first player I picked in this side this year. Coming off the fact that he's 20% less owned than Burton just mind boggles me.
Yeah. And it's only 30 grand as well, difference in price. It's not enough to really warrant that difference.
Probably should keep that quiet because I don't want to getting up. But I've noticed that ownership going up slowly. He was like at 9% there for ages. I think he's getting closer to 20 now, but Burton's still around 40. But he did pretty much what we all expected. Utica Mano had his usual sort of he'll improve this year, so he's a decent at his price. He's a decent option. Tigers I was happy with how they defended. I was happy the way their outside backs look good for these young blokes. The best thing that ever happened was Mamolo going down with his same knee injury in the first tackle he ran because Junior was outstanding. Junior Tupou.
Yeah, he had a good game.
So he should be a lock-in for that left edge spot. As far as anything Supercoach wise, I think a lot of the forwards you can't really go near him apart from Utica Mano because he's going to be cheap, but they're all going to take minutes off each other. Dewey, he's the best Supercoach option there. People have sort of said Noffo could be an option. I can go near him, but it was a good watch for a Tigers fan for a change.
Yeah, awesome. I'll go to the next Tigers fan. So, Glenn, you anything else you want to add, mate?
Yeah, well, I like Perso. I enjoyed the game. I thought Laurie played well, not great, but I thought he played well at the back. I thought the spine connected together with Wakeham and Dewey. I thought both of them looked good. I'm going to warn people off Stefano. I know that he's cheap, but I just don't see where the minutes come from in our club. You got big minutes. Our second row was with IPAP, and then you've got Bateman, right? You got Clemmer, Offengower, Pole. I can't even think of them all. There's just so many forwards in that pack. I just don't see how he gets the minutes. I think he plays 40 minutes, plays start 20 and 20. And
that's probably all he needs.
Well, that's probably right. So yeah, so I mean, points per dollar. I mean, he will still make money. So you're correct. And from the other side, so there wasn't a lot that I saw in there, but Harley Smith-Shields stands out to me. If he gets a spot at fullback or even a full-time gig, he's worth a look for Supercoach. And Tarpany, as always, was strong. The other one that stood out to me, was Kapoa. I thought Kapoa played well.
Yeah, Asu. Yeah. Brad, any other thoughts on this one, mate?
Well, I did watch this one with a bit of interest, but how can you trust anything Ricky does in the forward pack? So,
Oh, totally
you know,
true.
he's just psychotic how he plays with minutes over there. So it's very hard to know what the forwards are doing there. As to Dewey, well, you know, he's actually got a points per minute over the last couple of years, a point better than what Burton comes up with, about the
Mm.
same price. So, yeah, I know where I'd be going if you're choosing between the two of them. Um, I think there's more attacking points in the Tigers where, you know, a lot of Burton's points are going to come off the back of actually scoring tries, being able to kick goals and things like that. If you're not scoring tries, well, it's very hard for him to get points.
Yeah.
And that's what happened this weekend, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Mm. Yeah, I noticed. Was it Dewey? He likes to take the line on a fair bit, and if the player's outrun him, he just takes the hit up. He gets those extra points. He has to get a lot of extra twos and ones in hit up points. So nice, safe option there. All right, next game. We'll start with you. I'll go back to you, Brad. Dogs and Sharks, mate. Thoughts on this one?
Well, you know, everybody's climbing all over the top. Or I know quite a few people I know that I've spoken to are tearing apart their team like crazy, trying to fit Hines in. Having made the decision early not to go with Hines, so now that everybody's, um, you know, he just accumulates Supercoach points, doesn't he? I mean, how good is he? He's just Supercoach just loves him. He just
Mm-hmm.
takes the field, and all of a sudden he's on 30 points just from jogging on the paddock. You know. Um, beyond that, you know, I didn't. Teague Wilton, obviously,
Mm.
is sparked a lot of interest in a lot of people. Um, I'm a bit worried though that some of these Supercoach points that we saw him score, um, uh, it is try assisted, folks. So you got to probably take. He's not going to score a try every week. So if you're looking for what you think that he might score, probably take that try and a line break out of there, and then just have a closer look at his base, um, and that might give you a better idea of where he's going to sit. I don't think he's going to be a miracle, but he's certainly going to be a good, safe option. But yeah, I'll just add that word of warning in there about Teague Wilton. He's just those scores that we're seeing are, yeah, when they try assisted like that, it's can sort of overinflate things a bit falsely.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I pretty much went Garner to him. So had my trade very much after that game. So, Glenn, your thoughts on this one, mate?
Yeah, I think you went out of the pot and into the fire.
Mm.
But I actually had two Lawton there for a minute too, but I've been moved him back to Nat Butcher, as I said, Nat Butcher earlier. But listen, there's a few there of interest. I thought Averillo played really well.
Yeah.
He always does. Purnham or Hayes Perham, however you say his name, he done enough for me to show me that I think he's got stuff. I think he overplayed his hand a little bit. RFM is the one of interest for me. So I really like Raymond Latimer in the second row position. He's one I'm seriously considering. And from the Hines, as you were saying on Hines, so Hines and Cleary literally score points in every category you can in Supercoach. You know, goal kicking, kicks in goal tries. So I mean, it's hard to leave those type players out. But I still see a world where it could benefit if you get the right one. But yeah, that's all I really saw from that. Brayley was the only other one that sort of poked my interest, and I think the whole back line of the Sharks you could get at some point through the year. I mean, they were all Ramian, Katoa, Talakai, Mulatalo. I wouldn't be unhappy owning any of those four.
Yeah, I saw what happened to Ronaldo. He must have had a bad weekend. He got bloody grumpy. He was taking everyone on. Did you watch that game? Bloody hell. He just like got up and ready to fight everyone. And I was like, a couple of them may have been instigated, but I think it was just his bad mood. So, Perso, what do you think of this game, mate? Anything else?
No, no, really, just cemented why Hines was one of the first picked. I just can't not pick him. He's just everywhere. As Glenn said, yeah, 100%. You watch that with the Sharks back line, their draw sort of starts to open up from sort of about round 4 onwards. So watch the BEs of Militalo and Katoas and Ramians and Talakais and that from there, because all 4 of them will probably be relevant at some point in the season.
Yeah.
I remember it was last year, everyone jumped on the Mulatalo train, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go a bit different. I'm going to go Katoa. And I got him on that right time when Katoa actually was outscoring Ronaldo for about 4 weeks straight. I was like, I'm a genius. And then it went to hell.
I had both of them, and then Katoa got injured, and then Matalo went on a run of nothing. But if you get him on the right run,
that's it. All right, move on to the last game of the week, and that was Dolphins versus the Titans. Perso, because of your comments last week that you said that the Dolphins wouldn't get flogged, I'm going to start with you, mate. What are your thoughts of this game?
yeah, I'm starting to really think about how the Dolphins are going to go. They didn't really offer much. Titans look fairly sleek, but
I think Foreign straightened that. I reckon Foreign's just his calm demeanor there it really helped out a little bit.
Oh, there was always going to be a massive in for him. But if Foreign can stay fit, he's a massive in for the Titans all year.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. If people have been whinging about David Fafita, I thought he was good enough to be looking at. He's still going to be in my side. Obviously, Khan Pereira is going to be in everyone's side.
Mm-hmm.
Just both wingers really judge it Fafita as well. The Titans can always score points. They've always been like that. So if you got a bottom dollar winger, whether he's going to play, people are sort of saying, "Oh, when Albert Kelly's back, Khan Pereira's going to get dropped." I don't think so. Kelly goes straight back to centres. It'll be Sami or there's the other centre. One of those two will get dropped. Or the Khan Pereira will stay there, especially if he's playing well. So I don't think his job security is that bad. He's got to be one of the number one cheapies. Aside from that, Supercoach, Boyd was all right. Wasn't overly impressive. So that's one thing to look at. His goal kicking wasn't that great in that game either.
Yeah, that first one he shanked pretty nasty, wasn't it? That was a horrible one. What I did look at Tanner Boyd quite a bit, and I did notice that he was he might not have paid off every time, but he was attacking that line. He was putting that step on before the line, and that's what I want to see from him because it does pay off when he gets a bit more practice, and it should get a few points out of him. So, I think he'd be a safe option as a backup hooker.
Yeah, definitely. If you're going a cheap hooker option, he's the one. You're not going to look at anyone else.
Yeah, I was looking at potentially going Sonny Luke, but he hasn't played any games. I'm like, I'm not sure what's going on.
Turned up. You'd be a brave man to go inside unseen, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
didn't play the World Cup Challenge.
Going off the word of people saying that he's going to go on and play 50, 60 minutes, it's hard to go off someone's word at that anyway. So, all right, Brad, thoughts on this game, mate? The Dolphins vs Titans.
Yeah, I sort of had a bit of an interest in watching how Gilbert was going to go, and unfortunately for me, he's left me with more questions than what I got answers. So, like I just mentioned before, I'm almost tempted to go across to a Barnett for a safer, consistent point scoring and the unknown of what I'm going to get out of Gilbert. He sort of worried me a bit. The other one really interests me was Brimson. Now, particularly if Schuster goes down, geez, the Brimson Dewey combination that's pretty enticing. He is a super pod. He did. I think his PPM last year was 0.8, which for a 5'8" position is going to be pretty good. Although last year he did do a lot of fullbacking and just about everything else in the team. I think he even played hooker at one stage. He was all over the shop. So. Yeah, Brimson is certainly causing a bit of a stir around the traps. A lot of people talking about him, and I can see why. He possibly could come into calculations in an opening team, depending upon cash and if I can fit him. But he certainly looked active and he does look good. And when he goes on a run, we know that he's a high ceiling, which I know Glenn loves that word. High ceiling player. He'll get 100, 120s, 130s easy because that's his kind of game. Yeah.
I do like Brimson, but on those runs, but he does have a terrible flaw. I've been bitten by that personally. I think was it 2021 I started with him as a pod, and he ended up 2020 so nicely, and I was like, sweet, got this pod, this will look really good, and then bit me right in the ass. So but yeah, like if you get him at the right time, like you said, I reckon it could be a sneaky little one.
Yeah.
Glenn, mate, thoughts on the Tigers? Oh, sorry, Titans and the Dolphins.
Yeah, look, Ray Stone's the only one I wanted to talk about. I'm interested to see what others think. Like, what sort of minutes do we really think he's going to get and where?
Bugger all.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he seems to be highly owned, and Gilbert's the other one who I think's highly owned. I think that if
I couldn't
Stone
get
does
any
enough,
either of them, Glenn.
no, I agree, mate. But I think with Ray Stone at his price point, if he does do something of more interest or gets more minutes, it's an easy trade down too.
That's
But I
right.
would
Yeah.
avoid starting him.
Oh, he's probably looking at 20, 24 minutes off the
Yeah,
bench. He's
yeah,
not a big PPM player. He's going to like everyone loves him because he's sort of that hard edge sort of guy, and
yeah,
that try he scored against Melbourne in the dying stages, but when he picked his
Yeah,
ACL, and that everyone sort of gets a bit carried away with Ray Stone.
yeah. It's a good
bit of
Yeah,
footballer, just
bit of
not.
a cult hero, I think.
that's it. He's got that cult hero factor to him.
Yeah,
But you want to get down to the nitty gritty of him, like he's one of the bigger traps out there, as far
Yeah,
as
I
I'm
yeah.
agree.
concerned.
With those guys, I like the idea of having a beer with them. Probably not putting him on a super coach team though. So
100%.
yeah. All right, guys, that pretty much wraps up the trials for the week. So we'll start talking on our hooker position here. So I'll start with you, Glenn. Did you have any I know you got everything written down, mate. So I figured I'd go to you
Right.
first. What kind of hookers are we looking at, mate? You want to get some numbers there for us?
Well, I'll tell you who really piqued my interest was Cookie. I just think that when I look at the way people's sides are being made up at the moment, their spines are almost identical. And then a lot of the cheapies are almost identical, which only leaves a few players of difference for those that are sort of doing that sort of movement. And I think that Cook wouldn't be. I mean, he averaged 75.6 last year. He didn't get half the tries that Grant did, who got 77.6. I mean, the difference in them was very little. I owned both last year. I started Cook, as you know, and mate, and what I saw him the other day, he was just really good. So he would be the first one I'll be looking at as in guns. I'm not a fan of Robbo, but there's sense in going Robbo. The fact that he's got plays round 13, you know, they're the only two in the. I mean, obviously Grant is our.
Yeah. But I like what you said about Cookie because there's been so much talk about hookers and going, oh, you Grant and Smith, and obviously we've got Smith, who's another one that everyone wants because his points per dollar is going to be pretty good as well. But no one's been talking about Cookie, and it's like he was not far behind Grant last year. Brad, what are your thoughts on Cookie, mate?
Well, in previous years, probably the last 3 years, I've been on Cook just about from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
You know, he's one of those ones I just put there as a keeper. At the moment, I've on crunching what I crunch, my numbers over. I've actually gone to Grant. I don't like South Sydney's opening draw, and yeah, I think. Although Storms is also not the best draw, but I really do think that the South Sydney draw sort of swayed me in the direction of going to Grant.
Can I just say something to that though? I actually really like my hookers in tougher games, especially players like Grant, where he'll make those 50, 55 tackles, and anything that I get above that's kind of a bonus. But I do agree with you. The draw on South isn't pretty. But I can see a scenario where Cheese eventually upgrades to a Cook and we're running a Grant Cook. I also have Grant as I see the value there. I just wanted a bit of that storm. But geez, I saw enough from Cook that if you want a pod, 3% ownership too.
Yeah, nice and low. I'm just looking at his opening draw. We know it's a bit tougher than most.
It is.
Yeah, but you look at the averages versus those teams, and then you scroll down a bit further when he has that good draw, and those averages jump through the roof as well. So I can kind of see why that point is, but those averages aren't poor by any means. 62, 58, 53, 52, 52, and then he goes to the Bulldogs where his average is about 69.
Yeah.
And then you go from there, and it jumps up to a couple others where you look at St. George and North Queensland, his average is like 87, 85. So you definitely see the hesitation on getting him because I think even with Latrell Mitchell, people are going with Tedesco instead of Latrell because of that draw. But yeah, you never know what South's going to come out this year as well. So
and as I was saying before, I usually like my hookers playing in tough games, but players like Cook and Robertson, the easier games they are running hookers. So in the easier games you might get less base, but you'll get a bit more attack stat. So half a dozen on 6 the other sort of thing. But I just thought I'd throw Cook out there because, I mean, he's a little bit cheaper, and I really like Cookie. I've always had Cook. It's the first year I've not started Cook.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's good that you brought him up because that's what I wanted to talk about today as well, was the fact that everyone's kind of, and just to get everyone, no, really.
If South had a half decent draw, I'd be all over Cook.
Yeah.
He'd be hungry from last year. He lost his test jumper. He sort of got pushed out as the Coruscant started in Origin as well. He was only 2 points behind Grant Supercoach wise from last season. Came out in that game yesterday and he was outstanding. He looked amazing. But geez, the Rabbits draw. I did an article on the draw for Supercoach Playbook last week. The Rabbits draw is the worst early draw. I mean, the Rabbits are a top four side, but still, if Cook comes out and averages 60 over the first month, that's still good, but it's still 15 points below what he's sort of priced at. That's it. But if they had a softer draw, I'd be all over him. I think Cook's going to be at least the second highest hooker this year. If it'd be him and Green again, I've got no doubt about that. It's just what time you pick him up. And if Cook is to miss out on Origin this year, then bang, you're going to pick him up and run with him.
100%.
Yeah, I think with the timing of that draw when it ripens up, you wonder if Brandon Smith will be nice and ready to go straight. So have Grant Smith and go Smith to Cook.
That's the play.
Yeah, that's probably the ideal play there, I think.
100%.
Brad, any other hookers, mate, that you've been eyeing off?
Well, it's just an interesting point I raise, and Perso might have an idea on this one. I know he loves his stats over this, but Smith worries me a little bit. And I know you're saying about going from Smith over to Cook. I'm just not sure that I know, and we've spoken about points per his dollar value there. He's got his dollar per minute there, but I'm just not 100% sure if you wouldn't be better off, from what I've seen so far, maybe putting Boyd up in as your second hooker, all right, and using that as your cash play. Over Smith, and then boosting up your particularly if you're a team out there that's got Boyd in halfback, I think maybe Boyd up into hooker and look for another halfback option might be a better play for you than sticking with Smith. I'm just not 100% convinced from what I've seen in the trial. In fact, he almost looked a bit lackluster against Manly there at times. I don't know. Any thoughts there?
When he came off, he was frigging coughing up a lung, mate. He was sitting on the sidelines, barely able to breathe.
Yeah, and I think we've mentioned it, I think, the last couple of weeks that Grant Smith is that guy that's like, I have never been sold on him. Like, it look on paper, you got this big name that can score big points at that price, but I just don't know the combinations, how they're going to work with a new team. He made some couple of glimpses of greatness in the first week of trials there with that great passer from hooker, so that really good try up. But I'm not 100%. I'm going the same way as you. I've got Grant and Boyd at the moment, purely because I wanted to bolster up my other 5A position. I am not 100. I'll be happily eat my words and be proven wrong, but I am the same boat as you there, Brad. So. Perso, any hookers, mate? I know there's probably heaps. I've got a few names to rattle off as well, but I'll go with you first, mate. Any other hookers you'll be eyeing off?
I'm not opposed to any point in Brandon Smith either for the Grant Boyd combination, just quality. But Robson, couldn't go near him. I've got to say that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interest in Robson. I don't think he's going to play 80 early on. He didn't last year. The Cowboys have got pretty much been kissed on the dick with that same home draw again. They've got a lot of games in Queensland and a lot in the early heat. He only played one game at 80 minutes in the first 7 rounds last year, and that was in Canberra, the one away game they had in Canberra. He played 80 minutes. He averaged 48.28 from his first 7 games. I think you can see a fairly similar repeat this year, and then from there he starts playing 80. But even in these 80-minute games, he's not going to hurt you. He's not a big scoring player. He's consistent around that sort of 60 to 80 mark when he's playing 80 minutes. But I wouldn't be trying to get too cute and steer away from. I think hooker, it's either Grant and a cheapie, or Grant if you Smith is that highly owned. If you want to go that way, that sort of thing. I don't think there's too many options at hooker, to be honest, this year. Marnie's another one at 10%. I couldn't go near Marnie.
Yeah, no, there's definitely there's not many options at all. So when I'm looking at doing a draft, I'm looking at hooker first because there's not really that many options to look at to have a sustainable team. So I think personally, I think I'm sold on having the Grant and Boyd combo. But yeah, like there are other options out here that interest me, and I'll shout a few pods out now, but I'm not saying go to these guys by any means. We've got Blake Brayley, who's pretty attacking style, but like we said before, his opening draw first two games were a little bit tougher with Parramatta and the Rabbitohs, but then it opens up a little bit to the Raiders, Dragons, Warriors. But that's only 3 games because then you've got the Roosters after that. So there is definitely some attacking potential there to get some points, but just not consistent enough in my opinion. And then we've got JMK, who had a really good season last year, but also in a new team that probably hasn't got the most. I know the forward pack is, although experienced, probably not the fastest forward pack, and he probably needs to have that quick play the ball, which I don't see him getting. Because yeah, remember in last year, yeah, it was the Bulldogs. He had some pretty good fast play the balls there from what TPJ. Even Thompson was throwing some good fast at the start of the season, good quick play the balls for him. So, but the other Brayley, I actually like the other Brayley, Blake. Yeah. I don't mind even when their team's doing poorly, which seems to be going for years now. Blake has actually been quite consistent, 607K. What are your thoughts there, guys? I'll start with you, Glenn.
Yeah, I don't mind JMK. I mean, points per dollar, I just don't like the side he's in, mate. You know, I think you either go one of those two premiums, Grant or Cook, and then it's cheapies. What I would like to say is I want to warn people off Hodjo. And points per dollar, there is money to be made there, but his chances of going down or, you know, at any time is high. So I would just stay away from that one personally.
Yeah, he might make you 80K by round 13.
Yeah.
And then lose it in round 16.
Yeah. I couldn't go near him.
Yeah.
Yeah, the days of Hodjo being a good super coach are, I think, a bit behind him now. I think he's moved on a bit. Few too many injuries, I think. So, I'm just going to rattle off the opening draw here for Jaden Brady for the Knights. He's against the New Zealand, then West Tigers, then the Dolphins, then the Raiders, and then Manly in New Zealand.
Yeah, nice.
And we know Jaden has a pretty good with Supercoach friendly game. I think that could be a sneaky pod to save money, but is it worth not getting Grant or going Grant and him? I don't know. I think I would never. The only way I would consider it would be to go Grant and him and not have him as your first. But even then, you're missing out on a lot of dollars elsewhere. So, and the only last one I really want to talk about, which we've already spoken a fair bit about, is Tanner Boyd. I think he's my number 2 at the moment. Thoughts there, Glenn? Glenn?
I don't like Tanner Boyd. I'm just going to leave it at that. I really don't. Look, he has attacking upside. I don't like his job security either. I think that with that coach that they've got up there, I think that he's desperate. And when they lose a couple of games, Sexton comes in, Tanner Boyd drops out. That's just my gut feel. But I can see why people do. You know, like points per dollar, there is some sense in Tanner Boyd. I personally don't like Tanner Boyd.
No, that's the thing as well, that I'm very much the guy that likes to look at stats, but I like to make my mind up via an eye test. And I see that's what that's where you're coming from there, Glenn. I see, which is
and see, my Tyrone likes Tanner Boyd, and it's 50% of the community likes him. So I mean, there's common sense arguments for both sides. And but when I set up early for the season, I like to try and reduce risk, and I just feel there's a lot of risk around the Titans at the moment.
You've hit the nail on the head with that. Like it's if he come out and they lose to, then he showed last year he no consistency. He didn't mind chopping and changing, and he's a desperate coach. And then he's at that awkward price too. Like if you start with him and he does get dropped, what are you going to do with him? Try and downgrade to a Sonny Luke or
Yeah.
No,
So
you could find 1K and go to Hodgson.
yeah, exactly. So that's sort of the risk and reward take on Tanner Boyd, isn't it? But I will say for anyone that is looking at Tanner Boyd, do not even contemplate having him at halfback. He's got to be your second hooker
Yeah,
if
it
you
has
want
to be
him.
hooker.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. It's any other hookers we really want to talk about? I think that's pretty much wraps those hookers up anyway. So let's talk front rowers, and I'll start with the main man, and that's Tarpany. Glenn.
Well, I love Tarpany, mate.
Mm.
If I'm a front rows. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, Tarpany. I mean, it was interesting. I went through the numbers last season for the averages over the second rowers, and they weren't as high as I thought. So my past strategies and I've been successful in Supercoach has been stack to pack. I generally build my forwards, my hooker, and my second row up quite strong, knowing that centre wing makes money the fastest. And again, this season we've got a lot of money in there. But mate, I really like Tarpany. The fact that he's got dual is just an added bonus. I mean, his value is at front row anyway, so I don't really see people playing him at second row. But his average 66.5, I was quite surprised. I expected it to be higher over a season. 21% ownership. Yeah, I like Tarpany, Haas, Cotter, Tino, and Toho, and Nas. Nas jumped up for me today, just slightly. Like, if anyone likes Nas, I'd be interested to hear.
Definitely be a pod, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because he's been around for so long and hasn't really been Supercoach relevant for so long. So definitely be a pod if his game's changed up a little bit.
I just think the Storm really need Nas this year, and Welsh is the other. I had Welsh, and I upgraded Welsh to Nas, and there's still a world where I go Welsh.
Yeah, I'm a bit nervous because I got Welsh as my number one at the moment, and that's I got quite a cheap front row. I don't get me wrong, I like the idea of that, so I can spread my cash around. But I'm a bit nervous having Welsh as number one.
Yeah, I'm off Welsh.
Mm.
I've had him in my early picks, but I've just seen enough from the trials. He's not going to get the minutes.
Yeah,
That's always been the problem with Welch. He's a gun. He's an absolute great player, but Bellamy always manages his minutes.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, when he was getting those offloads and stuff, when he got to a 59 average, he was still getting his minutes managed. So his price at 45. If he can average 55, he's going to make 100k. Not the worst option, but I don't think anyone's going to say, "Geez, I wish I had Christian Welsh on my side." That's what sort of worries me a bit.
They will be if they start Stefano.
Yeah, well, he's not. You're not going to go any worse, that's for sure. There's no downside to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really don't know what to do with. I think I'm almost at a point where maybe not going with any of those mids at front row. Try and look for a bit of the cheaper value and go for at least one decent one. But Tarpany's a massive intrigue for me. He's never been Supercoach relevant until last year. And there seems to be this narrative that he got extra minutes last year, especially post Origin, but he didn't.
55 for it.
Didn't get extra minutes. His base attack went through the roof from Origin, post Origin period through to pre Origin. So pre Origin last year, he had 11 games and he averaged 57.81. During Origin, he had 5 games, 84.6 he averaged. Post Origin, 6 games, went back to 66.17. His minutes pre Origin were 54, during Origin 56, post Origin 48. He did not get extra minutes.
Did he get less? Did you say he got less minutes after Origin?
He got less minutes after Origin, yeah.
Holy crap.
But his base attack, his offloads and tackle busts just went through the roof. What do we put that down to? I have no fucking idea. But that's the way it is. So pre-Origin, as I said, 57.81, PPM of 1.06, a raw base of 50.54, base and base attack 58.9. During Origin, those 5 games during Origin, his minutes were 56.2, so only 2.2 minutes more. His PPM went from 1.06 to 1.51.
Oh.
His base average went from 50.54 to 61.8, and his base attack went from 8.36 to 16.8. So he had a base during that Origin period. His raw base plus his offloads and his tackle bust was 78.6 points a game. It's just absolutely insane, that output. And then post-Origin, it dropped off. So he went back to his PPM was still 1.36. But his base went down to 46.8. He still had 14.7 in base attack. So his overall base attack was 61.5, which is pretty impressive. But I just can't put on. Is it just a early season, takes him to warm in? The Raiders have always had that with their big forwards. They always take a while to warm in. I just wanted to reiterate that narrative that he just went through the roof because he got more minutes. He didn't. He did not get more minutes. His output just went through the roof. Probably because he was fit and everything halfway through the season, and Papa Lee went to Origin and all the rest of it. So where does that leave it this year? That's the question.
Yeah, I think.
I was just going to say that I think he did get extra minutes over what he'd previously done in previous years. Over the season, he was consistent with minutes, which is hard to say for Ricky. But yeah, he certainly did have a jump in minutes.
Yeah, he didn't, but Brad, that's the thing.
He didn't have a jump in minutes from previous years.
No, it's
because he's always been a good PPM player. He's always just couldn't get the minutes into him.
But that's where it just went. His minutes didn't even increase from pre-Origin to post. It's just all of a sudden he just tackle busting, offloading everywhere, and that just went through the roof. So what is that? It wasn't due to extra minutes, that's for sure. So that's the. I'll look at him and go, oh, do you start with him and think he's going to keep rolling on with that, or will he regress to what he was at the start of the season and easy to pick up sort of 8 games in once he's got a bit of form under his belt? I don't know.
You said something at the start, per se, which interested me, which is sort of the mindset that I'm at, was that I actually had 2 mids at front row, and I came away thinking there's enough players of value that I'm happy to run one, like a Hess, possibly even a Kepi, which enables you to turn that other one up. And which is what I did today. I went down to Hess and turned the other one up to Nas. And if I can find the money, I'll probably go even higher to a Collingwood.
I'm trying my hardest not to get trapped by Nas after watching that last trial. 7 offloads in that game. I just want to throw him straight in the side.
Yeah, well, that's how I came away too. But I mean, I would like to another look at him. But the fact that Welsh didn't offload was of concern to me, and the fact that
I'm off Welsh.
Yeah, well, the not offloading was a big off put, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that was what took him sort of out of that run of the mill to sort of pushing that 60 average.
Yeah,
you get 4 offloads a game. That sort of picked him up from there. He's not going to get the minutes, Welsh. That's been clear. He'll play 45 to 50 minutes. Bellamy just always averages his minutes because his body just sort of can't sort of handle much more. He breaks down.
Yeah.
And you look at the players they've got now as well. Like they've got those players. So they've got Sims in there that can kind of relieve him as well. And they've got like definitely enough. Like who they got? They got that young Chan guy looking like he might take a bench spot as well. So there's plenty of players that can relieve him there for minutes. So one player that I was going to ask about is obviously we know that is it TPJ with the calf issue probably going to miss the first month. Do we think Sutton gets more minutes?
100%.
Yeah.
Because Sutton is like 20k cheaper than Welch, and I think that could be that's what I'm looking at the moment. I'm liking Sutton, and I didn't mind how he played on the weekend too.
Yeah, big fan of Sutton. Again, minutes is my concern.
I think all those, while TPJ's out, Sutton, King, and Thompson all get sort of around that 50, 54-minute mark, and they're all meat and potatoes sort of base players. They'll punch out pretty much the minutes that they play. So at that price, he's definitely not the worst.
That's another side that's got big minute forwards. But I tell you who I really like that I'd love to see get a run in that side is Frank Compelle. He's a big body, mate. He's a beast. Perso, what do you think of him?
I think he's probably only got 15, 20 minutes in him, but that's the thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Run him out for 10, 15 either side of half. That's the thing. I think he with TPJ out, he'll probably get that small minute role on the bench. It's
slow burner.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm not sure slow burner. Not when you got Kepi at 279, who, if he gets that lock position, should make money really nicely.
Yeah, you'd be looking at him or your Mawali's and guys like that.
I like him.
That's
I
it.
actually can't believe Pele's 25% owned, to be honest.
Yeah. And
Yeah. So Brad, would you be paying 623 for Cotter?
No. Just, and I'm a Cotter fan. I was spruiking him up all pre-season last year. I was going nuts on him, but no. I tell you what, I do have a pretty wild theory though for you. You want to hear a wild strategy?
right.
I love a strategy.
Okay. Well, what do we think about? No, by the way, I don't think there's any way Kepi's getting a lock. Right, that's just crazy talk. Just rule that one out. Kepi is not going to be playing lock. He's going to be playing bench middle, and that's what his role is going to be. Jake Toroyevich, now that he's got the duel, any interest there? That's a pretty. But if he wants consistency, he's only priced at 50.
If he plays prop and he's not playing that ball distributing role at lock, there is interest for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, a new coach, yeah. A new strategy.
What he played 73 minutes at lock in Origin last year, and his stats were phenomenal.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great shout, Brad. I'm with you on that one, mate.
I don't have the balls to do it yet, but I'll tell you what, it's a strategy I'm looking at because it's. I mean, everybody out there, and this I guess leads on to the next bit. We're all looking to areas that we can try to minimise our cash spend, and one of the more popular strategies across Supercoach has been to really minimise what we're spending in the front row.
Yeah, that's right.
We've sort of a few people, and myself included, have changed that up a little bit, only because we've seen an emergence of a whole heap of cheap second rowers, which means that, all right, we can pull back our spend in the second row and maybe increase in the front row a little bit, but we still can't go, we can't fill it with Haas and Tapine in the front row. We just can't get there at the moment. And I don't think anybody can unless they are crazy.
I think you can go one.
Yeah.
Is an option. I'm not saying I'm doing that, but I think that if you're going to do it,
You couldn't go more than one.
That's right, absolutely. I mean, that's always been our position anyway, isn't it? Usually, one gun in centre wing, one gun at second row, one gun at front row, and then
Gone are the days when you could just load up on front row when your hookers were available at front row.
Our second rowers played at centre wing.
It's Smith and Farrer and Isaac Luke and all the front row with Gallen and Parker.
They keep changing it.
I was about to say I might be a bit older, but I used to remember you used to get Sean Fenton, who used to do like 60 to 70 tackles a game, and then you'd have right next to him you'd have Corey Parker. Oh man,
Mannering, Merrin, they were just all the
mate,
Mannering was
glory days.
I'm Mannering. 2 try assists as my captain. I lost 2 of them. I still filthy on it.
But yeah, at 520, Jake Toroyevich, reasonably actually cheap for what he's offering. As I said, priced at only 50 points. I think he's going to get more than that. So
who goes to lock, Brad, for Manly?
I think Jake. He's a lock.
But they said they're going to play him at front row. They've come out and said that.
He played at front row on the weekend too.
Yeah.
He was out of that link role, which is what the interest is. If he's not in that link role, that means he's just going to get that work rate going.
So does that mean Alloy A is out of the picture as far as the starting?
Alloy A and Boywich, I'd say.
Yeah, that's right.
So Paseka still coming from the bench, yeah?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Yeah.
Paseka's a really good impact player though as well. He's that big body that just big hits. I reckon
Paseka could be anything.
Yeah, he's huge.
You reckon they'll move Schuster to lock at any point, or you reckon they're pretty set at him at 5'8"?
I reckon another big hissy fit if he doesn't get 5'8", because
I reckon he will. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so
that's right.
I thought it was
written in his contract. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
I reckon if he doesn't perform, Cooper Johns, if he keeps going the way he's going, is going to put a bit of pressure on him.
Absolutely.
Mm. Yeah, especially because we saw a lot last year how he wasn't very fit, and if he keeps that up, I'm sure he's been trying his hardest on the off season this season after all the ridicule he would have copped. So if he loses that fitness, he's got guys chasing him. He's got little chihuahuas biting at his ankles, so he needs to pull his finger out.
He did play well the other day, to be fair.
Mm. Yeah.
Lawton is the other natural lock that Manly can draw on, and Lawton is. If he gets an injury-free run, he is very impressive Supercoach-wise. He can...
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, give him minutes. He's a nice accumulator of points.
He's had no luck with injuries, that kid, has he?
Poor bugger.
No.
Every club he's been at, he's just done something major. He's such a goer.
Yeah. One thing that I reckon, like, personally, what I've seen a lot of teams do, they have that big, heavy prop in the middle that plays at 13 for a little bit, and then they bring on that young, skinny, more lean, faster kind of player at lock. They do, like Newcastle did it with Mann as well. But I think, and Connor Watson as well. So I reckon having Lawton on the bench and spelling Kepi at lock, I reckon that could play real well in the Manly's hands. Have those tired forwards in the middle there while Lawson is just bloody in the middle there running through.
Well, they sort of did that with Dylan Walker before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
The Warriors. So.
All right. So one other one I really wanted to talk about, because I've got a couple written down, but I don't think Fisher Harris really isn't anything to talk about. So I'll go to the next one.
I can't believe Fisher Harris is 7.1% owned.
I wrote him down.
He's just not SuperCoach relevant.
No, that's right.
But who are the 5,500 people that own him?
They do smoke a lot of weed in Penrith.
Yeah.
That's why I moved out. The one I was thinking about was Tofu at 640k. What are our thoughts with Tofu?
Tohu or Tofu?
Tofu is his nickname, mate. We come up with nicknames in SuperCoach community to speed things up.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So what do you reckon that kind of role is going to be? Very similar to last year, where he plays in the middle, then moves out to the edge and spells, or?
No, he'd be 100% middle.
Yeah, that's right.
I like it. Yeah, 640 there. He's probably a bit too expensive to start with, but something to look at, especially with their draw isn't the greatest to start with, I'm pretty sure.
Just that new coach and their rotation and the new players, you sort of want to see a bit more from the Warriors, don't you? Before you got any confidence about even Barnett, a bit risky that way.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Who we should mention quickly is the Safidi boys, given that they got high ownership. I actually liked what I saw from Jacob Safidi.
I couldn't go near either of them.
No, I agree. But I mean, I actually thought Jacob Safidi looked the better of the two the other night.
He was the better of the two last year too.
Well, that's why he got the Origin.
Well, honestly, I was thinking going up through the junior grades and stuff, they were always touting the Jacob to be the better Safidi brother. And then I think just at the wrong time, Daniel just got that first jump up and then made the Origin debut. I think Jacob is the better Safidi brother. And he's had the opportunities came at the wrong time for him.
He absolutely killed it in that Origin game last year when he got in, Jacob. That's the best he's seen of him. But neither of them, I don't know, at club level, they just don't seem to kick on.
Yeah, it's a bit like the reverse of Mitchell Pearce.
So one for the gun. That there's another gun that we should probably mention as well, who's a jewel, is Tino. I mean, the way he finished last season was phenomenal.
Yeah, I think we should talk about him, but I think that what you're looking at there in the price point,
704k.
Yeah, and you got to look at who you're going to spend $5,000 less and get Tarpany, who doesn't play Origin. Yeah, I just think there's probably, it's weird to say this because he's a Canberra player, but I think you get more consistency out of Tarpany.
Tino's one of those sort of guys, once you get your salary cap up and you got money and you're sort of building your team, he's the sort of guy you can throw in for the run home.
Definitely.
He's not going to burn you by not owning him early on.
No.
Yeah, totally agree. Is there any other guns we've missed, guys, or any other players or players of interest that we've missed?
No, not really. I do like Ben Murdoch-Wasilla as a cheapie option. I've certainly been. I've got a watch on him at the moment. I think Glenn gave him and said he was a bit scared about him, but earlier was it? Well, one of us said that.
I said he had a heap of offloads.
Oh
yeah. He was offloading a lot. Yeah, I did say I'm a bit nervous of Ben Murdoch-Wasilla because he's been here before and I've seen him.
We've played this narrative, haven't we?
Yeah.
He looks fit. He looks dangerous on the edge. He's not loading.
Yeah.
He's fit all those bills. But
it's been too long since he was at Penrith. He's forgotten how to play.
Based on points per dollar, he is a watch. Especially
he's definitely on my watch list because we know what he can do. It's been a while, but we know what he can do. So
the thing is, with all those dragons, they get the buy in the first round, so you essentially get a second look.
Yeah, that's right.
Like a free look at them, so you wouldn't rush any of them in. Like, there's no out and out guns at the dragon, so I just would advise anyone not to even pick any dragons, even your Slayers or your Burn Up Massilas, your Chibies. Just you've got time to watch. If you pick someone in there that's not good, and they look like they're going to be good, but before they get the price rise, then you swap them out. Simple as that.
And 3 clubs will update round 5 instead of round 4, or round 4 instead of round 3, like Manly, Roosters, and Dragons, which is good. So that, I mean, for those that are chasing the money, if any of those 3 clubs have any, you can actually wait on them a week, which is quite handy. So we get a good look at BMM before his first upgrade.
Yeah, I think it's been because in the past, obviously, there might be like 3 cheapies or 4 cheapies that you want. You've only got 3 trades. It's really good because you kind of prioritize the ones you want to get now. You can wait a week on some. So this buy thing is going to shake things up a little bit, but you can also use it to your advantage, your strategy. Alrighty, guys, that's about wraps everything up tonight. Let's before we go, I'll just shout out the overall group code. So Tragics overall group code, guys, 223601. Jump into that group, guys. Winner will receive a SuperCoach Champions ring, proudly brought to you by SuperCoach Champions. Awesome guys there. Jump onto the website, guys, and grab yourself a ring. $5 each, and you have 20 men head to head, and you get that prize, which is. I've got a couple here. They look pretty good on my little mantle over there. So, also our cash comps selling very fast. We've got very minimal head-to-heads left. I believe we're very close to selling out. But we will have unlimited overall groups remaining, and they'll be sold up until up until the first game on the Thursday. So get in quickly. Reach out to Brod Thompson. He'll sort you out. And that pretty much wraps everything up. So what I want to do now is say thank you, Brad, and thank you, Perso, for jumping on. I really appreciate the insights that you brought in. And also want to shout out Brad off the bench, boys. Every Sunday release a podcast. I'm going to give us a bit of a spiel before we move on.
Yeah. Every single Sunday they'll be cracking it out. We're also going to be doing one this Thursday, I think, because. I think we had a bit of a hiccup and I think we had the NRL stats man on last week, so that occupied an awful lot of time. The group code there is 170834. Anybody's interested, that's the unlimited group code. Have a listen.
Awesome. And if you go back a couple episodes, you'll see my ugly mug as well. So I had to replace this guy with an inferior beard, which is quite intimidating. All right, guys. Thanks again for joining. Once again, thanks, Perso. Glenn, sorry, what do you want to say, mate?
Yeah, just quickly, 3 announcements. So SuperCoach Pro has sent us a link that we'll put up on our page that gets you 15% off if you join the SuperCoach Pro page. The Andrews Johns Cup, we've got everyone in. We're just waiting on SuperCoach Playbook to finalise their side. And the last one is, don't forget, guys, there's a $10 knockout comp that Rod and Ross are running towards Matty Wilson, who lost his beautiful partner recently. And I just think it's really important in the SuperCoach community that we rally around our mates, and he's one of our mates.
Yeah, it's definitely lucky I didn't forget that one. Thanks for that one, Glenn. Really appreciate that. And for same as the cash comps, guys, reach out to Brod Thompson. He'll help you out, hook you up there, and send those codes out for you. So, thanks for guys for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week. Peace out.
Cheers.
So you want to be a champion? Oh no! Now the knee. Well, that was it. Manu, what's he done there? He's sold the dummy with a knee injury. It's a fake knee injury. That is set up and thrown for Momirovski.
It's the next tackle. He gets an offload. He goes back and gets the football. Probably feels a cramp coming on in the back of his calf, and then just takes off.
Oh, what a beauty! So, you pick which has been the better moment. The bloke kicking the ball back from the traffic at the southern end, or Manu, the cramp, the fibber, and takes off to set up a try.